You are listening to the 5 a.m. podcast, and today is your day. Welcome back to the 5 a.m. podcast. Today, we're joined by a true innovator in the world of media and business, Dennis Meador. As the founder of DM Media, the creator of the Legal Podcast Network, Dennis has spent over 25 years revolutionizing how attorneys connect with their ideal clients, but his entrepreneurial journey remarkably began when he was just a young teenager. Now, he's had a few breakthroughs, and I'm sure, like all of us, has developed his own recipe for the secret sauce of business, and we're going to get into that today. Dennis has developed not only turnkey podcasting solutions, but other business interests as well. And he loves to see people amplify their authority, attract high-value clients, and build lasting client relationships. Now, he's got a unique approach, ladies and gentlemen, of people breaking free from generic marketing and being able to showcase their true expertise. I'm excited to dive in to Dennis's insights, marketing, the power of podcasting, the power of entrepreneurial attitudes. So, before we get to Dennis, I need to give you a warm welcome as you listen and watch wherever that might be. Please consider sharing this with 3 friends. I know that many are going to profit and enjoy this conversation. So without further ado, let us welcome Dennis Meador. Welcome.
Thank you, Michael. You can feel free to call me DM. My friends call me that. So from this point forward, you call me Dennis. It just tells me you don't want to be my friend. Yeah. No pressure though. No pressure. No, it's great to be on the show. I checked out a couple of episodes. I would hope most people try to do that ahead of time. Mm-hmm. I've seen that you're somebody that can craft a conversation, so I'm excited to spend some time and have a good conversation with you.
Yeah, this is going to be a great time. And a lot of people who are entrepreneurial, I remember having a paper route of, I slopped pig barns when I was, 10 or 12 years old for the neighbor to make some money. And I was very entrepreneurial. We grew up on a farm. And if you wanted something, you had to make it yourself or figure out a way to buy it. And our parents would steer us in the right direction best they could. But what came out of that was this entrepreneurial mindset. And so you were this young teenager. What was that mindset shift for you, or that developing that business foundation even from that young age?
Well, when I was living with my mom from 8 to 13, and I don't want to go into the whole sad story part of it, but we were in a very tough socioeconomic situation, but also just socially. My mom chose men to date that were like heroin dealers, crack dealers, gang leaders, 3 drive-bys over that 5-year period, things like that. So I learned at a very young age, 8 years old, that I need to take care of myself and I need to take care of my sister. And I just started not realizing, of course, I can look back now on it, but really looking back at that time in my life, I realized how much I was constantly observing. When we would meet a new person down the block, my mind was thinking, is this somebody that I can knock on the door at 2 a.m. if something tragic happens and I've got my mom and my sister crying behind me? Is this somebody that if my mom's out of town, gone for 2 or 3 days, I can come over and say, hey, can me and my sister come over and have a few sandwiches, or whatever it was. So when you learn to constantly be in a state of, I don't know what they call it in the mental health world, but just like, hyper awareness or whatever, yeah, right. I think that is a skill set that then continues to translate. So being in that situation where, I hated being poor, I hated being dirty, I hated living in the house with roaches and mice crawling on me. I hated going to school with, hair that wasn't cut. I hated going to school with, shoes that people would make fun of. So I determined at a very young age, when I grow up, I'm going to have money. And I, at the time, didn't really care what it was. Obviously, I knew I didn't want to do it illegally, like what I had seen what was going on around me. But I knew when I grew up, I was going to do something. I thought I was a lawyer for quite a while, just because everyone said, you argue so well. You should be, every kid who argues should be a lawyer when they grow up, right? So then 14 years old, 13, now I'm 14, I move in with my dad and basically started a snow shoveling, lawn mowing, leaf raking, paper route. But I was the salesperson and the person who collected all the money, and my stepbrother and his friends did all the work. Wow. So they did all of the jobs. I got all of the jobs. I collected the money. I gave them half. I kept them half. So basically, one day a week, Saturday, I would go collect my paper out money. I'd collect my lawn mowing money. I'd collect whatever time of year it was, collect the money, give it out to the other kids, put my money in my pocket, and just go live my life. And that's when I learned really the key of entrepreneurship, which is when you empower others to work, it's a lot more powerful tool than being willing to just work by yourself. If you can get a crew of people together in the same direction, excited doing something, there's a lot bigger impact. I could have mown 2 or 3 lawns on a Saturday and made
Mhm.
$30. Instead, I controlled all of this and was making sometimes more money than my parents. So it was just a very, very interesting way to enter into entrepreneurship. It was really by way of need more than like purpose or thought.
Thanks for watching the show. Just a reminder that you can get all of our resources, other episodes, and read our blog posts at 5ampodcast.com. Gold prices have historically risen during economic uncertainty. The time is now. Visit myinstantgold.com. Yeah. So delegation sounds like it was a skill that you had. And I remember reading the book E-Myth Revisited, where it talks about putting those systems in so people can delegate. So if we've got a listener or a viewer who's really having trouble letting go of the reins, wants to expand the business, but doesn't want to let go and lose control, let's say, what would that piece of advice be that you could give him on what he needs to do or she needs to do in that case?
I'd say there's kind of 2 steps to the process. This is what I've learned, how
Uh-huh.
you can, because as much as I've been a marketer, I've also been a consultant and, done business viability at different times. So I've kind of been in and around the business world my whole career.
Yeah.
Marketing's like kind of my love, my passion, my thing
Okay.
I could just jump in and do. The first thing I would do is I would find small, low skill labor that takes up your time, hire somebody from the Philippines, from Pakistan, from Central America, wherever, and hire them at 3, 4, 5, $6 an hour and offload 5, 10, 20 hours a week. The first thing, because it's going to do 2 things. One is you're going to now have more time to work on the things that really only you should be working on in your business. And that's like the biggest lesson I teach people is find the thing that only you can do, only your director of this can do. Like if you seek out the things that only certain people can do and then do all you can to keep those people focused on those tasks, as a whole, you will go much further collectively. And so we have people, their job is like, oh, that's a spreadsheet. It goes to this person. And they have those tasks. They stay busy. There's plenty of work for them, but
Uh-huh.
they're doing these, and I hate to use the word lower end tasks, but time consuming tasks that don't take as high of critical thinking. So that would be the first thing I would do is I would put somebody in place and again, just start to slowly incorporate them. The second thing I would do is I would then find your 3 core strengths that only you can do for your business. So I know I have to be the brand evangelist for my company. That's why I'm on your podcast.
Yes.
Never met you before. Not saying I don't like you. I'm just saying I took time. You took
Right.
time. Why are we doing
Totally.
this? Because we're the ones who have to do it. So I can be the brand evangelist. I'm also the visionary. I tend to be the one that sees, as I read the other day, a entrepreneur, a worker sees this month or this year, an entrepreneur sees 10 years. And so I live about 7 to 10 years into the future. So sometimes it's hard for me to see what's going on around me because my mind is so far ahead and in all the processes and where am I at in the processes and things like that. So if they can then find their 3 core things that they said, if I just did these 3 things in my business, we would be wildly successful and then start to slowly offboard other things. When you get to the point where you're working on the 3 or 5 things that only you can do for your business will take off. The other thing is you need to be willing to delegate to people who can only do it at 75% as well
Uh-huh.
as you. Everyone expects 100% or 125% of their own results when they hire somebody. When the reality is the person doing the work for you wants the paycheck. They
Yes.
don't they don't care about the impact. They don't care about what this is going to do for the business in 10 years. You told them you're going to give them $12 an hour, $20 an hour, whatever the dollar amount
Right.
is. They're going to get in, they're going to do that task. And if you can look at it and say, that's about 75% of what I would do if I sat down and spent 3 hours and did it, you need to be willing to be okay with that. And so those are the two things: slowly offboarding, finding your strengths and offboarding more. And
Mm-hmm.
then when you do offboard, be willing to accept that no one's going to do 125% better than you ever did with any project. They're probably going to do it at about 75%. And when you learn to be happy with that, then you could put yourself in a position for your business to start growing.
Right. Wow. Those are really good actionable tips and a really good way to quantify and measure expectation. So then I want to ask you then about the people that you bring on. How have you found being able to retain the good staff or train or steer people that maybe they're not stellar employees, but you see that they're a diamond in the rough?
Well, I like to do a thing I call sandboxing. So I
Okay.
hire people into what their resume says is their core area. But within that, there are several things. We could just take something as simple as customer service. I have a
Hmm.
customer service team. We're really building it out right now, really working on, we just grew. Before it was like me and two or three other people. We could kind of handle the CS. Now we need like three full-time people doing it. And so I bring in people, and I bring in this one person. I'm like, all right, for a while, I want you to handle the email issues and, all the stuff that comes in, working with the back end team, kind of communicate that. And for you, I want you meeting and doing onboarding. And then what I'll do is I'll switch them all around. And then now you're learning onboarding, you're learning the email, you're learning, working with clients who are upset or whatever. And then I find the area that they excel at and enjoy, that whatever that highest score is. Because if the people that work on my team can like what they're doing, even if it's a remedial, even if it's a job but if they happen to like, they're just like, you know what, I do this, it's not bad, like I like it, I enjoy it, I've had jobs I hated.
Hmm.
If I can empower my people to do those jobs, that helps. Number one, it gives me a lot higher quality of output because they take personal pride. I basically say, this is yours. Like, I have a new guy. He's, building cold email sequences and Twitter X sequences and LinkedIn and blah, blah, blah. And I said, listen, I was like, I'm giving you a month. These are the expectations I have for a month. You're telling me you're great at this. So I'm going to give you this month. You show it to me. And if you do it, that's your job. You're going to get a raise, and we're going to grow that. And that's the responsibility you're going to have. And I could do that over and over and over. We have about 40 people in the company. And I would say probably 25 of them, that's what I did. I brought them in. I sandboxed them within their department. I found out what they were best at that they also enjoyed. And then I try to keep them there as much as possible.
Yeah. Wow. Phenomenal, really, to think about that in terms of being able to paint the picture and vision cast with the people. But it almost sounds like you're building them up at the same time as building your brand and being able to scale with good quality people. I wanted to ask you about that listener or the watcher who's looking, they're bootstrapping something. Maybe they want to take it from part-time to full-time. And they're thinking, wow, this DM fellow, man, he knows I got to listen to this guy. What would be some of those steps? Or maybe there were some steps that you took that took you from making your side hustle the main hustle and being able to leave the 9 to 5 behind.
I don't believe in side hustles.
Okay.
I'm an all in guy. I always have been. I would rather crash and burn than stub my toe. And I would rather, you know what I mean? I would
Yes.
rather be the world wrestling heavyweight champion
Yeah.
than, beat up a kid in the parking lot. So I'm going to go for it. And that's how I've been my entire career since 14. My first LLC was at 18 and I was retired from like 21 to 25. I've always just kind of jumped in with both feet. So, and that could mean different things for different people. For some people, it might
Yes.
mean jumping in with both feet means, hey, hun, I've got this side thing. I really think if I took the next 6 months and when I get home after dinner from 7 to midnight every night, if you give me this 5 hours and then on the weekends, give me like 6, 7 hours each day, I really think in 6 months I could be done with this or done with the day job where I got to commute and all the other stuff I have to put up with. So there is ways to do that. I mean, Gary Vee talks a lot about it. It's like,
Hmm.
how long have you spent on your side hustle? And they'll be like, I've done like 3 hours. And he's like, shut up. Like, don't tell me you want something that you're not really going
Uh-huh.
after,
Yeah.
you know? And so I think that that would be my first piece of advice is find a way, if you're in a partnership, a personal partnership or relationship, discuss with them, because I think side hustles are not killed by lack of motivation. They're often killed by lack of communication by those we love. Because what we see as a short term sacrifice for a long term benefit, they're seeing as a short time sacrifice with no known benefit.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
And they don't know it's short term. Maybe you just became a workaholic overnight. And, so I think that communicating with whoever it is in your life that is affected by that, if it's, just you and you have a teenager living at home or whoever
Mhm.
it is that's affected by that, by communicating with them, that already puts you several steps ahead of most people with their side hustles. Because most people don't have side hustles, they have secret hustles. And those secret hustles never make it out of the laboratory
Right.
because they're never willing to step up to the people that it really impacts and say, "Hey, I'm doing this." Like, I had a business partnership, 5 years. I was making very, very good money, well into six figures. My business partner, I was December 1st, 2023, had a buyout option for 5 years, bought me out for pennies on the dollar. I took the company from less than 1 million to 5 million plus in revenue, from about 75 customers to about 400 customers. And he had been in existence for 9 years. And within 4.5 years, I took him there. I was like, that's fine. I'll start over. But I didn't hide it. I was getting married in April. I live on an island in Belize. So I can't just like go down to the local
Uh-huh.
sales center and sell something. So I went to my partner and I said, listen, I'll be here for the wedding as much as I can. I know we had these plans to travel here and to do this because of the money I was making, but that's over. Give me a year or two. We'll be back where we were financially. Give me 5 to 7 years and we'll be way ahead of where we ever, anticipated. And when I communicated that with her, my now wife, partner at the time, was just like, okay, I'm with you. I know where we're going,
Yes.
so I can follow you there. So I
Yeah.
think that's another key.
Right. So I want to ask you about the Legal Podcast Network that launched over a year ago in May 24. What was that development process like from that initial concept to launch? And then what were some of those unexpected challenges that you might have faced?
So concept to launch, I like to say like I'm an entrepreneur. I
Uh-huh.
have a notebook that I keep business ideas in. Everything from silly restaurants, and I'll never open a restaurant
Right.
because of the margins and the failure
Yeah.
rates. But I have like this restaurant in my head called His and Hers. And
Okay.
it's like the back is a barbecue shack and the front is like a little tea house. So that if
Nice.
she wants a nice place and he wants, but they can also cross serve each other. So we can sit in the barbecue house and have tea, or I can sit in her little
Nice.
tea house and have tea, but yet I can eat barbecue. I don't know how all that would work. But anyway, I usually have 50 to 100 ideas in there. 20 to 30 actionable ideas that within a week or so I could launch and make happen. And so I went to my notebook and I had attorneys asking me for the last few years, you guys do podcasts? And my partner's like, I don't think we should do that. And I was like, we should launch a podcast network. I really think like with content marketing, and there's so much more we could do with it. I do a lot of stacking with the way that I do content for my clients. And so we launched it softly in like December, but really launched it May 1st. I would say the biggest challenge I've had thus far, and I relentlessly have worked on and continue to fight this, and know I'll beat it. I've always been the sales process development guy. I've always been the product development guy. I've always been the viability study guy. I've always been the guy that could put the whole piece of the whole
Mm-hmm.
company on paper.
Right.
But when it comes to like fulfillment and client services and all of those processes, although just common sense wise, I understand them, that hasn't been my strong suit. We grew so fast, 0 clients to I think we're 150-ish clients in a year. Some of them we do one show a month, some of them we do one show a week. So we're producing a couple hundred shows a month, plus all the auxiliary stuff that we do with it. But one of the things that I learned was when you are growing, and I did this, you have to hold back your growth sometimes if you got a good concept, don't outsell your own internal systems. I've learned that the hard way with other businesses because my partners are like, just keep selling, keep selling. I'm like, we're going to crash this thing if we keep selling. Like, no, no, trust me, trust me. And revenue does not solve all your problems. A lot of
That's
people
for
think, well, if I
sure.
just sell more, revenue will solve the problem. Systems solve problems and allow
Yes.
you to duplicate. And so learning to find the right system, we started in, spreadsheets when it was just a few of us. And then we went to Monday.com. That didn't really work. Then we went to another program and that didn't work. Now we're using ClickUp. That seems to be, we've been working on it real heavy for 6 months. That seems to be coming into place and doing it. But that's been the biggest lesson is I think as business owners, for the most part, we consider ourselves fairly intelligent.
Hmm.
So what we think is, well, if that idiot can, balance books, I can do my own books. And if that person can create a whole social media campaign, I can create a social media campaign. And if that person, and we just look around at all these people that like literally live this for
Hmm.
their lives, and we think we could just like pick it up with a, dummy's guide on how to, manage your business.
Right.
And not being willing to delegate and trust and or bring in the appropriate consultants at the right time and thinking that you alone can solve the problems will set your business back and make it struggle. Now, fortunately, I learned that lesson years ago. So I'm looking for the right people, the right consultants, the right systems. We have something I say all the time internally. All I want is a company that continuously gets better, faster, with less friction. And I want that internally and externally. I want my clients to think of how good we are, how fast we are, and how they have no friction working with us. And I want my team to feel like, you know what, we're getting stuff done, we're getting it done well. And I don't feel stress and pressure and friction with my teammates and things like that. So that is the area that I would say for me has been the biggest struggle just because it wasn't my core strength.
Right. Wow. That's a great, those are some great thoughts. And I love that idea of keeping that journal and writing down different ideas. And there's no bad ideas. Can you talk about how that journaling has really helped you or propelled you or motivated you through your these last 5 years, let's say?
Well, I don't journal on a daily basis. Just when a business idea comes to my head, I have a black notebook that I keep right here.
Oh, yes.
And I just, I just write in it and I just say, here's this. There's no, yeah, but you can see here, you start to see like margins and things like
Yeah.
that, and
Yeah.
ideas and processes and things like that. And that's just, the way that my head, I guess you could call it journaling, but it's not like a consistent sort of like every morning at 4:30, I journal for 30 minutes and I do like the brain dump and all of that.
Hmm.
It's more just like something comes in my head. And if I don't put it on paper or in some sort of system, it
Yes.
just kind of bounces around. And
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. And so what about that entrepreneur who he's got these ideas that they're written down in the book. He wants to
or
start
she,
or she, yes, absolutely. And so wanting to be able to execute, but coming to that realization that I can't keep doing things the same way that I've done before and expecting different outcomes. But I also realize that I don't know all the things that I need to know. Did you have a mentor along the way, or how did you gain the knowledge to grow from where you were to where you are?
I mean, I kind of hate getting into this subject because
Okay.
I'm a bit of an outlier. I've never had a mentor.
Okay.
I don't read sales books. I don't read management books because what I found is I read them and I'm like, I've been doing this for years. So I don't know if I'm just natural born or
Of course.
trauma built or what happened.
Yes.
But like when I look at these things, I just kind of look at them and I'm just like, I just have kind of figured it out along the way. Now, to the person who they're not that person, and I don't think everybody is, and I don't think I am a intelligent individual. I think I am an intelligent individual amongst all intelligence. Like my brother, I always give this example. Like he can tear apart an engine. He works at like Tractor Supply. He's got this skill set that I never have. Like I don't hang my own pictures on the wall. I bring in a guy to do that. So, just kind of knowing that, but like telling that person, what I would say to them is I would say, just like earlier, find the thing, first of all, where the revenue is. Because although I said earlier revenue won't cure all evils, in the beginning, the faster you can get to revenue, the faster you have proof of concept, the faster you have people that will give you buy-in, the faster you'll have more customers join you. Because when you just create a website and talk about a concept and you can't show proof of concept, so you just have to build that slowly. So what I did, I had two buddies on the island that are attorneys in Miami, and I was like, "Hey guys, come in and do this podcast." And they're like, "Okay, sure." Like, what is it for? I'm like, "Oh, I'm launching this podcast company for lawyers. So we're just going to ask you questions." And those were our first two podcasts. They're actually my
Wow.
buddies off the island. And then I just went to attorneys. I said, "See, this is the kind of show we're going to make for you." And they're like, "Wow, that looks really nice. I want to work with you guys." So build with what you can, where you can, to get to where you want to be, and just take it step by step. But the biggest first step is getting a product that can be sold.
Uh-huh.
The perfection of the back end and the coding and all of that stuff can be fixed very quickly. What cannot be fixed is when no one makes any money for 3 months. And now all of a sudden, your partner who you told you only needed 3 months to make something happen, you spent 3 months playing with spreadsheets and logos and all kinds of little things that you should have pushed to the side and
Yes.
drilled down into revenue and getting your company into a place where it's actually making money, where you can hire people.
Yes. Wow. So another thing that you've talked about, you've mentioned the importance of establishing authority. And so if someone's working through what their future is going to look like and they realize, well, I have to position myself as an authority on my subject. Can you elaborate on what specifically could make that business owner, or maybe he's a home builder, stand out as an authority in today's market?
Most marketing starts from the company, the logo, or if it's founder led, the founder, and it exhibits outwardly why you should work with me. That's most marketing. Authoritative positioning takes the opposite approach. It identifies who your ideal client is, whether that is a certain demographic, a certain zip code, a certain need, but you've identified who this archetype is. I knew who my archetype was. There's 250 markets in the United States with 250,000 or more people in them. If we can have 10 attorneys in each market, because we do like one criminal, one personal injury, whatever. If we could have 10 in each of those markets, that's 2,500 clients right there. And I think we'll probably get 5 to 700, but I knew also I only work with 1 to 10s. So if there's a bigger company now, I have clients that are in bigger companies that have come to me, and I just say, this is my model. This is how it works. If you as an individual want to come brand with us to build your own practice and your big law company allows you to do that, we're happy to work with you. But I'm not going to do 3 sets of committees and 4 presentations to founders and all of that. I'm talking to you. This is how much it costs. This is what we do. If you want to be a part of it, great. So you have to identify that client and then build your marketing backwards from them. What are their pain points? What are their issues? What are their questions? And that's what you build the marketing around, so that now you're the one solving problems instead of you're the one standing there looking good and deserves their business, because people don't fall for that anymore. People, they don't fall for shiny logos and smiling faces. They want to understand who you are, how you're going to handle their very specific situation, and they want to feel like you know exactly what you're doing when it comes to their problem.
And so what would be then, maybe in your experience with marketing, has there been kind of like a top three common marketing mistakes that you see entrepreneurs making?
Yes, I'd say the number one mistake is what I like to call the 7-year-old fishing. Have you ever taken a 7-year-old fishing?
No, I've been a 7-year-old trying to fish, but yeah,
Well,
I
you
got
probably
you.
remember it a little bit, right? You
Yes.
put the worm on, you cast it out, it's there for 4 seconds. I didn't catch a fish, and then they bring it back, right? And then they toss it out over here, and then they put it in the thing, and then I didn't catch a fish. And a lot of times that's how attorneys market. They try one thing for a month. I'm going to do SEO for $5,000 for 3 months, and I should have 5,000 customers. And it's like, first of all, SEO takes way longer than 6 months or than 3 months. Second of all, we don't even know. Is it SEO, AIEO, GEO? Like, we're still in this answer engine optimization where we're going from phraseology being found for phrases and now being found for answers to questions, which lends to our program, because with our podcast, what we do is we create a content plan based on the client's or the ideal client profile of our client. And then we ask questions that those people would have. We then take those QAs, create about a 20-minute podcast, 20-minute YouTube show, 10 shorts, 10 audiograms, 10 static posts, content for their website. So they sit down for 30 minutes and they've got a month's worth of content. They sit down for an hour a month. They're posting twice a day, 4 to 6 pages of content, 4 full episodes or 2 full episodes. And we already have, and we see this ourselves. The other day, I sent this to my team. I just put in turnkey lawyer podcasting. Very simple. At the very top was my company's website. Below that was the AI results. And below that was a bunch of articles from Reddit and things like that had nothing to, just basically talking
Yep.
about the overall concept.
Right.
And it's only because we provide so many answers to the algorithms. They're already going, these people are putting out if you look at 150 clients times, even if we're just putting, let's say one video a day, we're putting out probably 400 videos across all the platforms.
Wow.
Every day, minimum, probably more than that, but just conservatively speaking.
Wow, that's feeding the beast for sure. That's something. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a comment section. We'd love to hear some feedback from you, maybe some of your hits or misses. We'd love to hear that in the comments section. Now, DM, I've got to ask you about metrics and success stories that maybe you could share of how, let's say, your podcasting or somebody that you're related to in business, of their business or their client relationship has been transformed because of either podcasting or some of the techniques that you talk about.
I could talk about my clients. I'll talk about a few fortuitous, almost like this was a wide open layup. So we had one guy come on in towards the end of the year. He has a show called FDA Imports. It is about imports and tariffs. How well do you think his show is doing right now? He went from regionally referred to nationally waitlisted in clients within just a few months. Another client is a federal employee, if you get fired, benefits sort of.
Okay.
You think he's been doing well the last few months? And again, went from a small local regional stage. Timing was right, subject matter was right, and they were the ones talking about it consistently. And he's grown, and his practice has grown tremendously from it. So we take situations like that. Let's talk about a more realistic situation. One of my clients is a Chicago criminal attorney. Sometimes I just go in and I just search and look. He comes up every time. He kills it. I have a guy in Miami who is a personal injury attorney, and again, dominates. Just me seeing his LinkedIn page stats, he's getting 30, 40 inboxes on his LinkedIn page. If you're spending a lot of time on things like LinkedIn, you're realizing that's a pretty good result, not including his other, outlets, Instagram, whatever, Twitter, whatever else we do for him. So we see it all across. It's not instantaneous. I always tell people during the first 4 months, we're establishing your show. It's going to take us about 4 to 8 weeks, depending on your responsiveness, to get that first episode out. Now we've got to start training the algorithms that you're going to be consistent with this 1 or 2 posts every day. And we've got to train Apple and all the 25 outlets that we put your show on that you're coming. But so for the first 4 months, you're going to start having people that friends, family, maybe people that almost were your client start to come in and be like, hey, I see what you're doing. Oh, maybe we should talk. Maybe you get a client after it. But now we hit 5, 6, 7, 8. Now you're going to start to see people you had no idea. They're going to be like, "Oh yeah, I was listening to your podcast. Oh, I did the search and your, portion of your podcast came up, answered my question. I went to your website. There's a whole page about my problem. How much does it cost me to work with you?" And that's really what we're trying to do for our
Mm.
clients. There is a
Mhm.
huge commoditization of the legal industry as a whole. Just in the 20 years I've been in it, I've seen it used to be if you were 20 years in practice and you were in a decent practice area, you were making 450 to 525 an hour. Those same people I'll call today are making somewhere around 325 to 375 an hour
Wow. Wow.
because of, they get out of college, I'll take
Mhm.
250. And when the
Mhm.
watermark just keeps lowering, so what I tell them is, guys, if the only difference between you and the next guy in your marketing and the way you present and position yourself is price, it's a race to the bottom. It's when you elevate your knowledge set to make your potential client feel as if you and only you specialize in helping them with their exact problem is when you can now say, "Oh yeah, our rate is 550." People who are researching to understand their situation, they're not looking for the cheapest lawyer, they're looking for the best solution to their problem.
Right.
All things
Yeah.
being same, they'll buy the cheapest lawyer. But when you differentiate yourself as an authority and an expert on high asset divorces with custody issues,
Mhm.
that's the guy I want. He's the top high asset custody guy in all of Atlanta. That's my lawyer. That's what we're doing for our clients.
Right. Wow. And you're changing even my perspective of podcasting. And maybe you can talk about how podcasting is actually a marketing tool, but it's maybe miles ahead of blogging or social media or traditional advertising. Can you make that kind of sales pitch of how important podcasting might be for a company to adopt?
Well, I think podcasting combined with YouTube. So let's say YouTube, because video is a huge mover. We have to be in the video game. We just basically, like you and I are using Riverside, we
Yes.
just use that to cut up and use it. But when we talk about having a video podcasting, a strategy in place, why that is, what that benefits or why that's so important for the attorneys is number one, we do all QA based podcasts. So we send them like 7 to 9 questions. It's about a 20-minute podcast. We provide the hosts. All of our hosts are professional podcast hosts.
Okay.
And they say co-host of John Johnson Law Firm show, and then John Johnson Law Firm CEO founder. So it looks kind of natural, so
Uh-huh.
we establish them as that authority. But then where they start to benefit is answering these questions separates them out. It assuages fears. The algorithms love it because of, we're going to answer engine optimization, query based engine optimization. So now we're feeding the beast with the type of content that it wants, QA content. So we're showing up in the algorithms, we're getting cited in AI. It's not just about showing up at the top of YouTube. In a year, it's going to be how many of those sites in the AI results click down to you? Because that's where people are going to do their extra research. They're not going to go below the AI. They're going to
Yeah.
click on the little icons next to the AI and see what's being cited. And if your podcast gets cited, then, that obviously puts them in a better position.
Yeah.
And the other thing is podcasting is an evergreen form of marketing. If I take $10,000 in PPC and I go to Google and I say, "Get me some
Mhm.
cases," they're going to be like, "We're going to spend your money. Oh, you didn't get a case. Sorry." Whereas you shoot a nice video, you shoot a nice podcast, you put it up there, it's up there forever. It's going to scale forever. I mean, you want to be consistent. You
Mhm.
don't want to be here and there with it. But the reality is that you have now created a marketing asset instead of a marketing expense. And so much marketing has been what I've called thrown away marketing for so long. Even if it is buying an ad, like a banner ad, even if it is buying PPC. Sure, social sticks, but social is such it just moves so fast that, you have
Yes.
to go back and scroll down. But with podcasting and with YouTube hand in hand with it, it sets you up to future proof your marketing because of the way that the search engines are going,
Mhm.
and you're investing in a way that you're not wasting money because you're creating everything evergreen that can be used for years and years and years to come. Our
Yeah.
easiest way to get clients is if we call them and are like, yeah, I did a couple videos a few years ago. I got some clients out of it. I need to do more of that. Or if they had a podcast for like 6 months and then they
Yes.
quit, and we just go to them, we're like, hey, we could do this, and this for this price. They started to see the benefits, but the amount of work, whether it was outsourced. I mean, I even have people that are like, I had a whole outsourced team. I have a marketing company that shut down their own podcasting division, started podcasting with us, and is now sending us all of their clients
Wow.
because they're seeing that it's not just about podcasting. Podcasting's a lemming. Like,
Yeah.
when I show my clients their stats, I'm like, okay, guys, you had 13,000 hours of YouTube views. You had 6,000 people watching your Instagram videos. You had, 15,000 people on Facebook interact with you, and you had 23 downloads of your podcast last month. Now, if I was just selling podcasts, I probably
Hmm.
wouldn't have 150 clients.
Right.
But when we create a whole ecosystem that allows for them to be successful in many ways and in conjunction with each other, that puts them in the position to be successful. Like, I've had some people are like, yeah, the video isn't doing great, but the FAQ thing that you put on my website from the transcript, like,
Yeah.
we get tons of SEO from it. We've got tons of clients from it. So we're just going to keep working with you, and hopefully the videos turn around. We've had the opposite. FAQ does nothing, video does everything. We've had people that are, I'm getting tons of people off of audio, tons of people that are like, I've never had one call off audio.
Right.
But when you do all of it, then you're not stuck in a place where, oh crap, how am I going to help a client if I'm doing
Yes.
this one very niche, narrow thing that will only work for a small percentage of them, versus what can I do to increase the likelihood of success on their behalf? And that's what we're
Yeah.
always looking for.
Yeah. That's phenomenal. So, DM, I've got to ask you, how can our listeners and viewers get in touch with you?
Probably the easiest way is just randomly start flying across the world, get out at airports, see if you can find me. Probably the second easiest way would be LinkedIn, Dennis Meador. And then I try to share a lot of value there. It's not all just about how great my podcasting program is,
Hmm.
but, philosophies on delegation, philosophies on systemization, philosophies on how you think about return on marketing, return on investment. What's a real podcast like? What are 5 ways to monetize a podcast? Most people know one way to monetize a podcast, and there's 5 of them. So it's just like I share that there. And then our website is thelegalpodcastnetwork.com. You can go to any outlet pretty much out there, type in the Legal Podcast Network, go to our YouTube page, go to our Instagram page, go to our Twitter page, go to our TikTok page, whatever. So we're out there, we're everywhere. Easiest is probably website. And then to connect with me directly, just to kind of got a question, whatever, just connect with me on LinkedIn.
Oh, that's great. So, just as we're wrapping things up here, do you have kind of a vision quest for the future, not necessarily of the Legal Podcast Network, but for yourself and what you've been building?
Absolutely. And my team, I'm very open with this. So we built this a year ago. We live in Belize on an island. We're getting ready to move to Merida, which is like the North Yucatan off the Gulf Coast, about 3 hours from Cancun, but more like inland from it. It's actually the safest city, not just in Mexico and all of Central America, but we're moving there because my wife, we're trying to have a baby, and they have very, very good health care. And you can pay about 4 grand and have top doctor, top room, top doula, everything, for all of that. So we plan on being there for a few years. We're going to use that as a base to see Central and South America, depending on the birth of the child, the timing of all of that.
Right. Yes.
Once we finish that time there, we're going to go to Europe for about 3 to 5 years, kind of explore that. I've lived in Europe when I was younger, but I didn't really explore it well. And maybe some Africa, things like that. I've got a couple of people on my team in South Africa. So go there. Eventually, within about 7 years or so, I'd like to end up in somewhere in Southeast Asia. We went to Thailand and Bali earlier this year. I've got a team in the Philippines. I've got a team in Pakistan. I'd love to be able to honestly just spend 3-4 months a year touring around and meeting with my different pods of people all over the world. You have no
Hmm.
idea how many relationships I have that I've literally never, like, one of my sales guys recruited me into this industry 23 years ago. We've met one time in 23 years. He came by, he was driving through, we played pool and hung out one afternoon 20 years ago, but we still have done business together, worked together. He's worked with me, I've worked with him. We've had little partnerships on some things. So these relationships I want to solidify, and I want people who work with me remotely to be like, no, if you're ever going to work remotely, this is the company. They have a great culture, they make you feel included, they care about where you live, they care about your schedule, there's a high standard, we all depend, like, I want all those things for my company. When I move to Southeast Asia, my goal is I have to work 1 day a week, and it's just look at the reports, go over the problems, solve the problems, go back to bed at 3 in the morning, and then they live the week and I live the
Huh.
week. That's
Yeah.
the ultimate goal.
Thanks for watching the show. Just a reminder that you can get all of our resources, other episodes, and read our blog posts at 5ampodcast.com. Secure your family's future with your first gold purchase. Your children's financial future is too important to delay. Start their golden future at myinstantgold.com. That's great. So then one other question, seeing as how you have a broad reach with even your staff, finding a virtual assistant, were there some hiccups along the way or some best practices that you utilized to know how to find these people that you've never touched base with?
So it's really, are you hearing me fine here? It's really about understanding their culture. I think, and I had a guy that was on my team shortly that's no longer on my team, and this isn't the only reason he's not on, but when he said that, it really stuck with me.
Okay.
He said, don't they know we're an American company? They need to do things our way. And I was like, you got it wrong, man. Like, for example, Filipino people, stereotypically, not all of them, but in who I've worked with, they have a strong aversion to confrontation. So if you express, I went through 5 or 7 Filipino VAs in like 2 years. And I went to college with Filipinos, like some of my best friends were Filipinos. Like I didn't quite catch this in the culture. But I learned with such a strong aversion to any sort of like confrontation in with them, I had to learn to candy coat the way that I talk to them. Because when I'm doing business, I'm just like, do this, go there, do that. It's not about emotion. It's just about getting things done. So I had to learn to be like, hey, Jenny, would you mind taking care of this? Oh, I appreciate that so much. Now Jenny's been my VA for 5 years. Same thing, like I have a team in Pakistan, and my old partner, they all hated working with him. I'll just say that because he didn't he didn't even call them by their names. He just called them all Pakistan, first of all, which, that's not very kind.
No.
But even beyond that, if they had holidays, if they had like Eid is a huge like
Mm-hmm.
Muslim holiday. And so I was like, okay, so what's going on with Eid? Okay, so these people are going to be off. Okay, are we covered? Yep, I got this. I got this. Okay, but are you taking time to celebrate with your family? You're not going to just like make your wife and kids go off and you're working with me, are you? He's like, no, I took Sunday off just like you told me I had to promise. So like I try to pay attention to things like that so that they understand this guy doesn't just want me to work so I can make him money. This guy actually values me as a person. He understands me, my culture, my background as much as he can. During Eid, and I'm nowhere near a Muslim, but every time I talk to one of my team over there, I'd say, Happy Eid. Thank you. Like, no one had ever really said that to them from outside of their culture. And a few of them even emailed me and said, I just want to thank you for just at least acknowledging that we have this. So I think that was the biggest lesson I learned is learning their culture. Like, again, Pakistan values volume over accuracy. So I have to set up mechanisms and catches and balances
Hmm.
and meet with them and teach them and say to them, guys, you like working together, right? What I see here, no, this is not acceptable. I am not impressed that you did 3 videos in an hour because all 3 of those videos are going to need to be redone for another 2 hours worth of work. Whereas if you would have just taken your time and done the video in a half hour and a half hour and a half hour, now instead of spending 3 hours to do these videos, you would have spent an hour and a half. So I'm really, really trying to teach them that it's much more important to spend more time on one project and get it done right the first time than to say you got 3 projects done, have them sent back to you, and we're doing things like if it comes back to you, we're docking your pay, like, putting in all these systems, understanding that it's their culture. So now what they're going to be doing is learning the proper systems and then trying to speed it up, which is not a bad combination.
Yeah.
But when the first combination is just be fast, or the first ingredient is just be fast, that's not right. It's be accurate, do it right. And then once you can do that, if you can get it a little bit faster, great. I'm going to respect that. So that's the
Oh, that's
biggest
good.
lesson with VAs. Learn
Wow.
their culture, learn where they're from. I'll give you one more. And again, I'm not
Yes.
saying this happens every time. I've had trouble hiring in Central America, not because of women, but because every time, and I've hired 5 guys from Central America. And again, I'm not saying they're all this way, but the 5 that I hired, this is the exact issue I had with each one of them. If I had a semi-attractive or attractive woman on my team, all of a sudden he was, "How are you today, beautiful?" And he was literally through our team chat trying to, which it's natural.
Yes.
Like, I live in Belize. So like when a woman walks down the street, they're just like, "Hey, mama, you're so pretty. Why don't you come?" I have bad accents, so please don't be
Okay.
offended by my accents. I always tell people I'm a man of 1,000 voices. I just don't know what they match up to. But, they're just like, "Hey, mama, come over here. Like, show me some of that stuff. I love you, baby." Like, it's common because we're in we still have that Central American, South American machismo. So I had to learn, like, to monitor these guys very carefully because I'm like, especially if it's an American woman, I can end up in a lawsuit if I don't do
Yes.
anything about it.
Right.
So again, just learning these cultures, learning the strengths and weaknesses of each of the cultures, and hiring according to what you need and the strength of their culture. So like with VA, with Philippines, we mostly hire for like VA, like spreadsheets and answering stuff, a lot of administrative type work. For our team in Pakistan, they do video, they do graphics, they're great at it. They just have to slow down a little bit. But there's about 20 people there. That's all they do. I got 7 or 8 people, full-time job, they just make reels. That's their
Wow.
full-time job.
Wow.
So just learn the culture. That's the short
Wow.
answer to the very long answer I gave you.
No, that's really good. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. What a conversation. I'd like to remind you that Dennis does have a great website. He's got some good resources there. You can access those valuable tools at www.thelegalpodcastnetwork.com. And don't forget the LinkedIn. DM, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your insights.
Absolutely. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed my presence as well.
Yeah. Was great. Thank you so much, DM. And thank you to our listeners, too. We appreciate you being here. As I often say, it's like DM and I have been in a diner having our lemon meringue pie and a little coffee, maybe some cherry pie for myself. And you're just eavesdropping as you do in a diner. So thank you. If you haven't already, please help us grow the channel with a like, a subscribe, and a share with your friends, of course. Thank you to those who've given us that 5-star review, most coveted on our podcast players. And of course, thanks to our friends who ventured over to buymeacoffee.com/5am podcast. We do appreciate all levels of support and for you helping us build AM podcast. Remember to seize your day, enjoy those sunrises and sunsets and all those adventures in between. I'm Michael Klassen. Thanks for watching the show. Just a reminder that you can get all of our resources, other episodes, and read our blog posts at 5ampodcast.com. Turn everyday teaching moments into a valuable lesson about long-term wealth preservation. Gold prices have historically risen during economic uncertainty. The time is now. Visit myinstantgold.com today and secure your family's future with your first gold purchase. Your children's financial future is too important to delay. Start their golden future at myinstantgold.com.